Welcome to the Curiosity Cure podcast. I'm your host, Deb Malkin, Master Certified Life Coach, Body Worker, Hypnotist, trained in pain reprocessing by the Pain Psychology Center, queer elder, fat human on planet Earth, here to help you evoke the power of simple neuroplasticity techniques rooted in shame-free curiosity so you can feel more better, more of the time in the body you have today and build the rich, full life that you want to live. A quick disclaimer, this podcast is not a replacement for medical care. I am here to provide insights and techniques that can complement your healthcare journey, but always consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice. Hello, my feelers and healers. It is Deb, your host of the Curiosity Cure podcast. And I am literally coming on here today and winging it because I have been wanting to record a podcast about my surgery recovery process and the way that mind-body skills have helped me navigate it. My experience has been unbelievably humbling. Now, I will say it's been just over 4 weeks. My body is feeling so much better. I am healing. My scars are looking good. I am now back sitting at my desk and I'm not having any more pain, like 98% feeling better. Let's leave some room for the human experience. It is a time where I feel like, oh, back to myself. Mostly my digestion is great. Occasionally, like when I ate some fish and chips, had a moment of my body being like, we're not too sure about this just yet. But on the whole, that is the outlier rather than the norm. I think the thing that I want to come here and say is having surgery is a wild ride. And like having a body is a wild ride. Let's be real. We think that there's this fixed ideal state that we are supposed to be in, that we are supposed to embody. And then when we're not experiencing that, it can be so hard to experience or see anything other than that, anything other than the pain, the discomfort, the nausea, the feeling ill or feeling bad. That can take up all of the bandwidth in your attention and your awareness. I knew that before, but having surgery and recovering from surgery really showed it to me in a way that I could see it because I have this mind-body awareness and knowledge. So I had a different set of lenses that I could look at my recovery with. But I will tell you, having knowledge isn't necessarily the work. It is part of the work. As Nicole Sachs says, it's one leg of the stool. In mind-body practices and pain reprocessing therapy, we talk about the essential piece of psychoeducation. I talk a lot about this in this podcast, the understanding of the neuroscience of pain. So that is definitely a piece of the foundation of what it means to recover. But there is the real life, minute to minute, when you are in it, experience of witnessing who you are when you are dealing with healing. And I got to see that I am petty, scared, sometimes kind of crazy, panicky, all kinds of things. Like I definitely hold that Walt Whitman quote that I contain multitudes, right? So there was this metacognitive understanding that I am in a healing process. But the amount of fear and then reassurance seeking and catastrophizing that I got to witness myself doing was a lot. And if I didn't have this metacognitive understanding that healing is a process and that I am having these kind of touchstones and ways of holding myself in a soft resting container of understanding and healing and safety. If I didn't have that, this would have been much harder. I had a whole thing of being mad at my surgeon about the scar because I didn't know that not everybody's gallbladder is not taken out through their belly button. So I had a scar on my belly that was not very big comparatively for surgery to have an entire organ removed, but it was in a different place than I was expecting. And that set up this whole series of thoughts and feelings and anger, feeling upset and betrayed and overwhelmed by this idea that my body shape that I had fought so hard to love was going to be altered and altered without my consent. That anger and fury and powerful emotions were swirling around for me for a while. It was painful. It was a painful emotional experience to go through. One of the things that actually helped was because I tried to share my feelings and my upset with friends, and sometimes people didn't get it. They were trying to reassure me, but in a way where I didn't feel like my whole story was heard. And I think what was useful about that experience was to see that a deep wound for myself is feeling not understood. And I was like, wow, that's actually maybe the most painful part. And, that has nothing to do with this surgeon. That has nothing to do with this surgery or this experience. It doesn't have anything to do with my friends. That is a core wound of mine. Why? I have no idea. Maybe it's astrology, maybe it's my family, maybe it's traumatic experiences I went through. Maybe it is just part of the human experience of this incarnation on this planet. For me, I have literally no idea why, but it is something that continues to reveal itself to me as this deeply painful experience. I was like, whoa, I got to witness that. And one of the places that actually felt really powerful for me to get that need met was strangely on Reddit. I think I've talked about the usefulness of Reddit when I was dealing with making changes around my cholesterol. I'd been using the Reddit gallbladder group as a way of sourcing useful information. Like I both crowdsourced my friends and had people to share with me about their experiences around surgery, which were mostly positive. I think it's really important to understand the filter by which you're looking at and trying to find information. If you are only looking for what can go wrong, that is the wrong strategy. I will tell you that the internet is full of people fear-mongering, sometimes fear-mongering and then selling you the solution for the fear, or just people in distress sharing and creating more distress. So if that is a situation that you find yourself in, if the forums and the places online that you go for support are actually amplifying fear and distress, I want to recommend that you find other places to go. And it is 100% understandable to want to connect with people and feel heard and have your experiences validated and feel comforted. That is such an important and essential human need. So I was recognizing that in my fear and in my upset, that's what I needed. But I also needed some information. So it was kind of a twofer. I went on the Reddit board. I told my whole story. I shared with the group my feelings. And then I asked the question, is my stomach going to be deformed? I was a little hyperbolic. I was dramatic. I was upset. And I liked actually the part of me that can be dramatic when I do it kind of on purpose. I feel really seen and validated by myself. Like, oh, yes, this actually feels important. And maybe it's also a way of softening the hurt by using some humor. I'm not really sure. I mean, there's so much to be said about using humor as a way to process pain. So there's that. But it was really helpful because I got people writing back and saying, "Hey, you know what? That was my experience." One guy was like, "I'm a big guy. I have a big belly. And it took me like 4 months for my belly shape to go back to normal." And there were a number of people that were like, "Yes, you're going to feel better in this amount of time, but it's going to take this amount of time for your belly shape to go back to normal." And then one or two people were like, "Mine didn't quite go back to exactly the way that it was." And in hearing those stories, the very not dramatic, the people just sharing their experiences, people who have had successful surgeries, there was a way that I could put myself out of time, out of this moment of distress that I could not kind of navigate my way through. And on their stories, I could see into the future and see that, yeah, you know what? In a few months, it'll change. And even just reminding myself healing is a process. Things always change. Nothing stays the same. This moment in time is not your entire experience. Those helpful messages, I got to really reinforce them even more. That's the reinforcement that I needed. And once I got it, I was able to step away. I didn't need to keep doing it. I just could trust. I was like, my body is like their body and it's going to change. And it has already changed. It's been 4 weeks and the shape of it has changed. It's still a little bit different from what it had been before surgery, but it's not what it looked like right after surgery. And of course, these things are so logical. At the other side of it, like in a year, I'm going to be like, of course. But what I think is important, and maybe I need to say this, Deb, in a year from now, you're going to be like, oh, it makes so much sense, the logical brain, that like all of this change in how the way you're going to feel happened. But I also want to honor my emotional self, my hurt self, my panicked self, my overwhelmed and fearful self. Those selves were feeling what they were feeling. And I want to validate that as well. And like really hold that me with so much love. That was one of the lessons that I learned over and over and over in this was what I actually needed was a lot of radical acceptance and a lot of overwhelming self-love and compassion. So there were different times in my healing process. There was the first getting back to normal period. I had people come and take care of me for the first few days. I needed some help getting up and down from bed or from the couch was hard and painful. And that subsided. After a few days, I was able to do things. I could make coffee, I could get up, I could go to the bathroom by myself. I mean, I could do that the whole time. I was taking pain medication and that was helping. I figured out how to sit on the couch and be comfortable. And I watched a lot of movies and we ate some food that felt good and supportive. And so there was the like immediate after surgery period where I was like, I gave myself full permission to not do anything and to be cared for, which honestly is very hard for me. I had a difficult time letting people help me. And I also got to watch myself have a difficult time letting people help me. And also very grateful that I asked for help because I needed it. And I also needed the company. I needed to say, yes, I need somebody here to care for me. And even if caring for me just means being here and responding to a need that I may not know that I have yet. Maybe it just means just be here and watch a movie with me and help me stand up from the couch and get me some water. So the next week, I was dealing with my feelings about my scar and also just like having this experience of being like, I couldn't remember that it wasn't even 2 weeks from surgery because I could get up and I would walk They had recommended the walk to move the anesthesia out of your body and to move the gas out. And by this time, I wasn't needing continuous pain medication. So I was taking Advil maybe once a day. I watched the entire series of The Good Place. So that was really fun and distracting. I was trying to get sleep and I was taking good care of myself. My schedule was wide open. I don't know if in the second week, I can't remember if I had some clients or not. I figured out how to work at my couch because I did try to sit at my desk and that felt like I was being stabbed in the stomach by squirrels. I figured out how to do my life from the couch. And still there was this place that kept being like, you're not getting better fast enough. And the important mind body skill in this process was to be able to witness that urgency, to be able to witness that part of panic, of control, of judgment, of fear. That is the number one mind body skill because I had the intellectual knowledge that I am in a healing process, that my layers of my body are knitting themselves back together, and that my only responsibility is to get out of the way of the healing that is happening. So I had that intellectual understanding, but the emotional, the physical, the somatic part that goes with the emotional understanding was all over the map. And it was fascinating to watch. It was frustrating. It was painful. It was humbling. It was so human, so unbelievably human to be in that experience. And so I could at least stand outside of it and offer that me the deepest, most powerful love possible. Because the fearful, judgmental part is not actually my true nature. That is nature developed by socialization. I don't know if it's the ancestral Jewish anxiety, if it's a handful of diet culture and perfectionism thrown in there, whatever it is, there's definitely this message of there's the right way and then there's what's happening. And those two things weren't matching up. And there was this fear response, this fear of being rejected from doing it perfectly happening. But I could witness it. Sometimes I just would witness and then soften. Like I would invite my body and my heart and my mind. Literally, I could feel myself softening against the fluffy cushions on my couch. I would invite myself to melt like a marshmallow floating in hot chocolate. Whatever imaginative construct I could create around melting and softening, I used, and it helped. I could feel my breath relax. I could feel my internal structures let go. And that was really helpful because tension on an abdominal incision is not fun. And I did a lot of checking out. I will say the number one most useful tool in my recovery process was losing myself in television. So after watching The Good Place and really enjoying that, tried to watch some other Doctor Who stuff, but I have a little bit of Doctor Who heartbreak that comes along with everything. So then I launched into rewatching the entire series of Picard, which I had kind of forgotten most of it. And that was really enjoyable. And then I watched the other four Next Generation movies, which, I remember being like, these were kind of not good, but I didn't care. Like it was so beautiful to put myself in a place where I was like, I am just watching for pleasure. I do not need to have a hot take or an opinion about anything. I'm going to cry when Data dies. I am going to let myself be moved by these characters that I've grown up with, as silly as they may be. I mean, they're still around. It's still powerful. It's still a part of me. it was almost like, I'm gonna choose to be here with, like, these good friends. I also watched the entire Will Wheaton series of The Ready Room when he was interviewing all the people, who were in Picard, and that was so sweet and unbelievably earnest, and there's something about that level of earnestness that also is, like, so cringe because it's cringe inside me, because that's also a part of me, is, like, that level of earnest. So, where I went and the places that felt good to go were this, like, deep television, and I think that that was different than what I had imagined, I was gonna be doing with my time. I thought maybe I would be working on my book. I thought I would be doing something productive, and I know when I say that to people, they're like, "Yeah, your body was knitting itself back together, and that is pretty damn productive." And I know that. So I am revealing my, like, pretty deep self-judgment in this process of where I'm still unpacking perfectionism that is a part of who I am. So in a lot of ways, I'm grateful for this experience of having these skills to meet and tend to myself with love and compassion, understanding the mind body experience and being able to witness myself through a lens of safety, through a lens of kindness. Because safety isn't just physical safety, it's also emotional safety and somatic safety. It's the kind of safety that says you're not in trouble. It's the kind of safety that says you can trust me to not be mean to you. You can trust me to be caring and thoughtful. And I think in this healing experience, I really recognize that what my mind body system needed is for me to step into that role even more deeply. For me to be able to say to me, I am not going to judge you. I love you unconditionally. I know that you are in pain and you are suffering. I am not in a rush. I am safe and secure. I love you. I hold you. I am here and I am not going away. There is nothing you can do that will drive me away from you. Hearing that and believing that lets my whole system relax. There's like this deep breath that gets released. I've shared this story with some clients and maybe even on here because once I record this, I forget everything I've said. In this process of healing, I have come to notice this holding that I do. And it's the same exact breath that I hold until I get through security at the airport, until I get to my gate. Then I'm able to release that last bit of breath that I'm holding, this subconscious tension that's there. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like a little extra aliveness. It's a little extra alertness to help me get through something, to be aware. But also, when it's there, it can cue me that I'm holding on, that there's something that is tripping this trigger for me. So makes sense when I'm going through security at the airport. Although I've actually been practicing being like, whatever happens, I'll be fine. Can I let this breath out before? What might it feel like to be 1% more relaxed going through this experience, right? Just because you have a habit, just because I recognized a pattern, doesn't mean that that pattern can't change. So the question is, how do I create the invitation for change through this lens of safety, not through being punitive or judgmental or even perfectionism, right? The illusion that because I know and understand these concepts that somehow I'm going to be a super person and not going to need them. Oh no. In fact, this showed me just how unbelievably human I am. So many moments that I had to laugh at myself, and so many moments that I cried. And at the same time, it was like those were the reps for that self-loving, abiding part of me to be doing. That was the gym that I invited myself into the process. So at some point, and I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you know I never tell like a straight narrative story. So I go all over the place. So I'm going to go back to my kind of healing process. At some point around the weekend before week, like just after 2 weeks, I really recognized that I was like pushing a little bit too hard. And then I could see that I had this perfectionist overdoer. Like I was doing more physically. So I was cooking for myself and taking out the garbage and doing a bunch of things. But I could also tell that there was a part of me that really wanted to push the edge and see how much I could do. And I was like, I don't know that I trust that part because I was still having pain, like getting up from bed. I was still having pain in my middle incision place. And I was just like, you know, I'm in an active healing place. They say like these incisions take 2 to 4 weeks to heal. I am just over the 2 week mark. There is nothing extraordinary about me. And there is no reason why I'm going to heal in some miraculous speed, nor is there any reason to heal with miraculous speed. This is not a race. I'm not here to win anything. What if I just let myself be human? So I actually made myself go to bed. So any moment where I was like, could feel that tension between wanting to get up and do more, I would just go to bed. So I slept in a lot for a number of days, which I think was great for my healing. It was terrible for my mental health. Also gave me headaches. It reminded me of being really depressed at different times in my life. And I was like, yes, and we're choosing this. We are not depressed. We're choosing to lay in bed for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and it's temporary. But there was just parts of me that I was like, I hate this. And I had to be like, I know you hate this, and I love you, and you're going to get through it. But it is the right choice because I could just tell that's what my body needed. Just needed some tremendous rest. It did help. And then I was able to transition out of that state into being up more. Then I tried to go back to sitting at my desk, and that didn't feel so great. So then I was like, at some point, you'll feel fine sitting at your desk. The thing that they put over the wound fell off. And then I was just going through all the stages of healing. I got my pathology report back, and I had any doubt about getting the surgery, and I did at different points, like when I was hurting and when I was mad about the shape of my belly, I definitely had moments of judgment and being like, this was dumb. You shouldn't have had surgery. Maybe you didn't need it. I can't believe you put yourself through this, even though I understood the reasons why I went through surgery. And then I got my pathology report, and then I was like, oh, no, I 100% happy about my decision. No question. It was the right thing to do. So it was really normal to witness self-doubt, to witness regret, to witness wanting to blame myself for being in this situation. I think I didn't realize how quick I can be a jerk to myself. These are the humbling experiences in healing. Sometimes you think the humbling experience is like needing help or feeling hurt, but no, it's the way that you talk to yourself and the meanness that there is. And I'm just like, oh God, if I never treat myself this way again, of course, that's perfectionism. But if I can take this experience and relate to myself softer, kinder, more gently, more curiously, more interested in what's happening under the hood, right? Maybe that's even the place. It's not just like be nice to myself, it's be curious. What is happening? I want to know, right? It's that same sense of being upset when people don't get me or when people are misattuned to me, when they can't hold what I'm actually saying. Like when I'm complaining, what I'm saying is, I feel hurt and I need to be held and comforted, but my words aren't saying that. But that's the need that's underneath the surface. But that feels really vulnerable, right? Especially as a single person. So if I can get curious and be like, what is the need that's underneath this complaint? What is it that is hurting? What is it that needs tending? What is it that needs witnessing without judgment, with curiosity and with care? If I can become that person for myself and also elicit help from other people, it's not all or nothing. It's not me or other people or me, right? It's all of us together. It's going to take a village to care for this me. And in this process, I got to know these deeply vulnerable parts of myself and not tell them that what they need is not important. I think that's my biggest takeaway in all of this. Some of the things that helped with both the physical pain and also with the emotional pain was slowing down. Some of it was just slowing down, like part of my response system when the alarms are going off, when the fear is rising, is that I can get very hyper focused tunnel vision. Alarm bells, fix it now. And so part of it is just recognizing it, right? Again, witnessing and pausing and slowing down my breathing, slowing down my thinking, slowing down my moving, and just letting in a little bit more space. It's like aerating it, letting it be, and then being curious. And so much of the time, that's all it needed was before I was quick to go to judgment or go to action, just slowing down, letting my prefrontal cortex come back online. Because when you are in a state of panic and fear, thinking it's not clear. So then I was able to be at work, healing was happening, I was moving more, I was feeling better. I started going to the theater, and that's how we know that I am on the road of recovery, because that requires me to sit up. Right before week 3, I got a cheap ticket to go see The Baker's Wife, which has been sold out and expensive. I was like, I'm going. Thank you very much. I took some Advil and I had a great time. And it was a beautiful show. It wasn't my favorite, no, but that's okay. Perfectly lovely theater experience. And also, I felt like I got to be with the me that I have grown to love and appreciate. For me, that was an indication, right, that I had reached this kind of level in healing and really trying again to ease in. And this is a pretty standard practice in any kind of surgical recovery, is when you start to feel better, you do more. Healing is not linear. So it's often when we start to feel better, we do more. When we do more, our body's like, that's okay, a little bit too much. And for me, this too much idea is such an interesting and complex place to be, because in neuroplastic pain work, there's not often a physical too much, right? Where we're like dealing with an injury. It's really more of a somatic safety message from the body that we have to learn to interpret, but also we want to expand and move beyond trying to manage and control what is too much. But also, I am literally healing multiple wounds in my body. So I'm listening to my body when it is telling me, hey, now is a good time to dial it back. It's always really useful to listen to your body, but the conclusions that we draw are different depending on our circumstances. I remember when I had surgery in 2010, I had arthroscopic knee surgery for a meniscus repair. And that surgery took me about 2 years to heal from. 100% of that timeline was because I did not understand this. I didn't understand the mind body process. I didn't understand how pain is something created by the brain as a part of our protection system. So every time I felt pain, I would stop doing things. I was constantly icing. I was limiting my movement. I would feel better, and then something would happen and I would feel worse, and I would just dial it back. I was very, very afraid. There was just a shit ton of fat phobia in there and weight stigma and fear of my body. There was this fear of never recovering. There was so much terror that I was not even aware of. And I didn't know how to recover from that surgery. And nobody taught me how to feel better. I just did the best I could, which was to let the pain lead me. And the pain told me, and my interpretation around pain at that time was, if you feel pain, you've done too much, you are doing it wrong, and what you should do is stop. It was a very black and white, all or nothing experience. And it wasn't until years later when I finally started riding the recumbent bike and I started not listening to the sensations, then my body was like, oh, yeah, this movement. It was so far after surgery that I was just kind of like, I think there's something here. Like, I didn't have this understanding. I didn't think about the nervous system. I didn't think about how do I negotiate this sense of safety with my brain. I know I've mentioned it here before, but there's the Twin Peaks approach, which is in pain recovery, the way that the nervous system and the brain sends pain as part of the alarm system. The alarm will come earlier and earlier and earlier before there's any threat of tissue damage. So it's a sensitization of the alarm system. So what I had done inadvertently was sensitize my alarm system so much that when the alarm would ring, I would stop doing things. And so finally, at this point where I was moving and riding the recumbent bike, I just was like, I think my muscles really need something that I haven't been giving it. And it's been 2 years after this surgery. I didn't know that I was doing it, but I started to retrain my nervous system around the alarm. And I was able to teach my brain that moving was safe, that I was able to build muscle, build more movement capacity. And then as moving became easier and it felt better and I felt stronger and walking became easier, I was relaxing more and more. So I could look back at that time through this lens and this understanding now. And one, just like so sad for that me, so unbelievably sad, maybe a little angry that nobody taught me this, that I didn't know this, that I had to suffer for so long, that my relationships had to suffer. There's a lot that happened at that time. So being able to have that experience and look back at that and know that this time is going to be different. I understand how to decode pain and sensations in my body. I know how to be with them. I know how to tend to myself. I know how to sit with the unknown, and I can witness all of the fear and the panic and the overwhelm and not let it overtake me. There was a time this past weekend I had shared some fish and chips. When you have your gallbladder out, there's no bile storage receptacle anymore. So it affects your ability to eat high fat foods. Everybody is different. So there's a few things that can happen. Nothing can happen and everything is fine. Your body eats something with high fat and it moves right through you, and you'll have some urgency to go to the bathroom. Or what happened to me, I felt nauseous later, and that was unpleasant. The food was delicious. I was very happy to have eaten it. And I was like, whatever's going to happen, I'm curious and we'll see how it goes. Some people say that it takes their digestion like an entire year to get back to quote unquote normal. And I'm okay with that. The upside for me is that I'm adjusting my diet for my cholesterol management anyway. So I've already shifted out of eating a lot of high fat foods just as a part of my daily life. I was kind of curious. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to give me a gallbladder attack because I don't have a gallbladder anymore. But I was like, I don't know why I feel so bad. My belly hurt a little bit. The incisions hurt a little bit. I felt a little nauseous. Like there were some emotional things that were going on too. I was just like, it could be all of the above. It was like, is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? All of the above. And I was like, literally, it could be D, all of the above. Let's just take it easy and see what happens. So I did miss out on the Hanukkah latke party. And I was kind of like, I don't really know that I want to be around latkes today because it's all fried. We can't do everything. So let's take a break on that one and be really gentle with myself and ease off again on the urgency and the intensity around healing, around having to do it right, around wanting to do all the plans. In mind body work, we often recommend to people to do things, to do more things, to break the habit of trying to manage your body's experiences by controlling the things that you do. We're talking about long-term habituated patterns. And then there's the other extreme on the other end, which is pushing through, not listening to your body and just doing everything. So there's somewhere in the middle, right? Being on either extreme, doing nothing and doing everything, doesn't bring you into self-connection. The hard part about self-connection is we don't always know the right answer. And sometimes it's like we have to explore what would it feel like to go and do this thing and possibly not feel great. It's interesting when you allow for the process to not be so cut and dry, when you allow for the process to be maybe even a little bit mysterious, when you allow for yourself to be a human being, that's when it gets easier. What I had to contend with was feeling safe enough to disappoint somebody by not coming to their gathering. Even though I wanted to go, I knew that not going was the right choice. And I felt very conflicted about being a disappointing friend. Again, that reveals this deeper wound of attachment. And I was like, yeah, that's the invitation. That's what I need to work on. That's the part that feels hard and scary. The possibility of being abandoned, the possibility of people telling me that my choices hurt them. I wish that there was a way to make this part of being human easier. I think that's where the self-love comes in, the agreement to not abandon myself, that no matter what happens, I have my own back. No matter what happens, I can trust that I can navigate the ups and downs and ins and outs of my nervous system and of this really deep healing and self-witnessing that's happening. It's like a play within a play. The big play is gallbladder removal and healing from surgery. But then the real play is being a human being in a human body, having human experiences of attachment, connection, fracture, disappointment, needing other people, being afraid of needing other people. All of that Shakespearean drama that's happening under the surface of my gallbladder removal and recovery play. That was what was happening. That's the grand drama. Learning again and again to trust the miracle of this body. What my body needed the most from me was to get out of the way and let it do what it knows how to do. And it didn't need much from me. It needed sleep, needed good hydration and nourishment. And then it needed me to leave it the hell alone and take my shenanigans someplace else. And that's what I did. Not in a rush, not here to prove anything. There is no reward for healing the fastest. Thank you for everybody who sent me sweet notes wishing me well in my surgery. It will never, ever not be a miracle to me that I could go to the hospital, they could take out an organ and send me home the same day, and I could, in general, feel pretty great. That is the coolest thing ever. Grateful to my surgeon, to the entire medical team. It really was a wonderful experience. And I think that they're very thoughtful and smart about how they have gone through and created this, I don't want to say easygoing surgical experience, but as far as experiences go, that was a pretty easygoing surgical experience for which I am grateful. Thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.